pleasure to welcome you to the SGX3 webinar series. We started this series again. We had it before with SGCI, the Science Gateways Community Institute. Now with the NSF Center of Excellence for Science Gateways, we started it again. And we have in the first half year a technical series of different Science Gateway frameworks, Science Gateways to showcase. And we are very happy to have today Open On Demand with, I think, 5 speakers. So I think they make a really nice show. And so the recording will be available afterwards. And at the end of the full hour, I will also introduce the next webinar we will have in May. And with that, I give it to Ellen.
Actually, I think Julie is going to start, if I recall.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
That's
sorry.
okay, Sandra.
I missed ask the order.
That's fine.
Julie,
No problem. Good, Julie.
Can everybody see a big Open On Demand logo?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Julie Ma. I'm one of the co-PIs on the On Demand project, and I'm so excited to see so many people here today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to do a really quick exercise with everybody first. I hope many of you are familiar with Menti by now. It's just an opportunity for us to learn a little bit about who's here so that we can tune our comments appropriately. So to join the Menti, you just go to menti.com and then enter this code to begin participating in this little survey. It's just a 3-slide survey, and we hope that you will have fun with it, as we do. So we're just going to ask you 3 questions. The first is, what is your primary role at your institution? And hopefully you've gotten into the Menti, and you can just click on the various choices that we have here. Thank you. Got a very even distribution. Okay, we're gonna wait. We have 34 people on the call, so we'll wait till we get to 20 and then we'll go to the next question. So 10, yeah, just a few more. Again, just go to menti.com and enter this code, and then you can go ahead and answer the questions. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Thank you for answering these. The next is, what is your experience level with Open On Demand? Are you very new to this? You have no experience? You've looked at it a little bit. You've been using it as long as Dave Hudak, who introduced Open On Demand 10 years ago. Okay, thank you. And our last question is, what are the first words that come to mind when you think about Open On Demand? You can enter as many words or as few words as you'd like, and it's just going to form a word cloud. I always love to watch these things form. It's so interesting to find what the audience is thinking about and knows about our platform. These are great. And we'll be able to share the results of this Menti with Claire and Sandra, if you guys want to look back on it. Okay, thank you so much. That's amazing. So actually, there's one more question, which is not really a question, and oh, sorry about that QR code being in a weird place. Feel free to ask us anything. This is going to be open throughout the presentations today. So, and then at the very end, we'll come back and try and address as many of the questions as we have time for. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Alan.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Julie. And let me share my screen now. So great to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. Julie didn't really introduce herself, but she is a co-PI on one of our Open OnDemand NSF awards. I am co-PI on several of them. Also presenting today, Hazel Randquist is going to give kind of the actual technical demo overview, and they'll be doing that here in a little bit. And then at the very end, Emily Moffett-Sadeghi, who is our DevRel program manager, is going to talk a little bit about our roadmap and the future of Open OnDemand. And as Julie mentioned, you can drop stuff in a Menti. Feel free to also drop stuff in the Zoom chat. I'll be monitoring that and interjecting my colleagues as appropriate. So since there were quite a few of you who really don't have any experience or are new to Open OnDemand, I'm just going to spend a few minutes here and give you a very high level kind of intro slides to Open OnDemand and overview, and then we'll get into the actual kind of demo of it. So the that's me, the Open OnDemand general walkthrough. I just realized I actually didn't update this. It's not an app overview as much as a kind of roadmap overview that we'll do, and then we'll have some open floor discussion on there. Okay, so let's talk about Open OnDemand and why you would care, why you'd want to do anything with Open OnDemand, and the first kind of avenue or persona that I want to talk about is if you are a researcher, if you're somebody who's say an educator or somebody who's making use of research computing, well, why would you want to run something on Open OnDemand? It's very simple. It allows you to access your organization's computers from the web, from anywhere on any device. It's that simple. I mean, that is what the bread and butter is of Open OnDemand, in that you don't have to have special clients, just use a web browser. It's very easy to use and really compatible with any device. And by the way, you'll notice on my slides here, there's always a little URL down in the bottom. That's just a short URL that'll drop you into a page on our website that has kind of the same more information on here. Now, when we say any device, we really mean it. So I've got a short little video. Again, you can see this video, openondemand.org/any device. And it really is any device. So obviously here, a laptop. We've got a virtual desktop, a laptop with a variety of windows up. Okay, cell phone. That's MATLAB on a supercomputer from a cell phone that people are doing. Tablet. Yep, an iPad can kind of look at jobs and submit them. Hey, you can do it from an Xbox. Have you thought you could run MATLAB on a supercomputer from an Xbox? My Tesla, with a beautiful view of downtown Columbus there, looking at jobs and stats on the OSC's cluster. And then finally, of course, the metaverse. You can do Open OnDemand and a VR headset. And I'm getting a lightweight desktop in Open OnDemand there. So kind of cheeky there, but really it shows you the art of the possible. Any device, anywhere on there. So if you happen to want to be able to just kind of get started and play, Hazel is going to show you one approach to being able to kind of play around with some containers with OnDemand, our tutorial. But I want to point out that all three of the major cloud providers, AWS, Azure, and Google, all have official kind of instances and recipes to launch virtual HPCs with an on-demand front end. So what you're seeing here on the screen is the Azure example, what they call it Azure on-demand. They walk you through a variety of clicks, and all of a sudden, in a little bit of time, you have that fired up, and it's a full production on-demand instance that you can play with. Okay, now I suspect many of you actually work for research computing organizations or centers or departments. And so let's look at the flip side. Why would you all, if you are some sort of sysadmin or administrator, really care, or why would you want to install Open OnDemand? Well, it's the flip of what we just said, in that it allows your clients to access your resources from virtually any device anywhere. It really transforms the way they can make use of that. So it lowers that barrier to entry. They don't have to worry about SSH and command line and esoteric things they see in hacker movies. It's fully free and open source as a result of generous contributions and funding from the National Science Foundation over the past decade. And it's incredibly configurable and flexible, and there's a huge community around there. You'll see some of that today. So speaking of that community, for calendar year 2023, we know this is an undercount, but we are able to track over 1,600 organizations in 95 countries, every single continent except Antarctica. I'm working on it. If you can help me get in Antarctica, that would be fantastic. But this is, we know that this is people that have pulled down and kind of installed Open OnDemand all over the world. This is based upon geolocated IP addresses from our RPM package servers logs. But we also do know a lot of the different organizations. So there's a lot of logos flying by here really fast. Again, we've got funding from NSF, and one of the things about our funding from NSF is they want us to be able to show the impact of that funding. We show that impact by being able to list off and tell them about organizations that are part of the community that are using Open OnDemand. So if your organization is, if you don't see them on this list, please just let us know. Drop it in the chat, or if you go to the openondemand.org/orgs, there's even a thing you can click on there. But it really helps us to illustrate the impact of what we're doing here. So apps, utilities, we are aware of a lot of them. Here is just an example. There we go. Of course, my Teams came up. We're aware of quite a few of them, but this is by no means a exhaustive list of a lot of different software packages that can be accessed via on-demand. So you've got utilities, all of the major resource managers and are on here. Obviously, Kubernetes is the hot topic nowadays, and yes, we can do that. But then there's tons and tons of apps, including lots of, for example, AI apps in TensorBoard. Obviously, some of the most popular ones are things like Jupyter and RStudio. Those are really popular. And we've got a lot of templates for these, again, available on the website. Next up is support. So if you are going to be using Open OnDemand, well, how do you get some support? Well, the first thing, we really encourage you to check out our Discourse instance. I'll just point out, this is not Discord. We're not that cool. We're not like all the cool kids nowadays that are chatting on Discord. This is something called Discourse, which is basically just a message board service that we subscribe to. It's web-based, but you can also interact with it via email. We do have a Slack workspace that you can interact with, but I'll point out the Discourse. We like to point people towards the Discourse because you can search it, and so your problems and questions might be something that somebody else has found in the past. I just saw today somebody posted a question, and one of our great colleagues from Arizona, Rick Anderson, chimed in and answered some very basic questions, which was fantastic. We do have some GitHub documentation that we're constantly updating and working on. And then please do sign up for our Constant Contact newsletter. We don't send out very many of these. It's less than once a month, so you're not get spammed, but it gets you notices of releases and upcoming events and things like that. And all of this stuff is accessible on openondemand.org/support. I will also point out, as Julie alluded to, Open On Demand's been around for about a decade at this point. And so we've had a lot of events where we've done videos, we've done publications, we've just done a lot of things. There's something like 150 of them we have on our website. So if you go to openondemand.org/events, you can kind of go through those by date. You can also search them, and you can watch videos, you can download papers and posters. And this is not just stuff that we've done. So again, if anybody on this call is giving a presentation, you're mentioning Open On Demand or related to Open On Demand, let us know and we'll add it to here, because we wanted to share that with the community on there. And then I think the final thing I've got here is we do have regular community events. I think I saw Martin Kuma in the participants list, and Martin runs every month a tips and tricks call, first Thursday of every month, that he hosts, where the community can present different things. We've had some fantastic things over the years, and those are archived, and you can view the videos after the fact. And then we also have open office hours on the second Tuesday of every month, where the development team that you see on here just sits on a Zoom call and helps answer questions and deep dives into stuff. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I didn't see any questions jump in to chat while I was talking, which is fine. But I will pause momentarily and turn over to Hazel. So there you go, Hazel. You might, yeah, we're seeing your screen just fine.
All right, awesome. I do want to open up chat and paste. There we go. So those will be handy in just a moment. So hello, my name is Hazel Randquist. I'm a developer for the Gateways team working for Alan. My background is primarily in Ruby on Rails development, and I've been on this team for 6 months. I'm really excited to be here today because prepping for this tutorial has been a challenging and rewarding experience, and I'm excited to see so many people interested in such an incredible resource. Like Alan said, please feel free to ask questions in chat as we go along. So we will be working through the features of Open On Development and taking a brief look at some of what is possible when it comes to customization. We are following along with 2 parts on the University of Buffalo's HPC toolset tutorial, which I've linked in chat. I won't be going through how to install and start the containers provided by the tutorial today, but know that it does include a complete and working setup guide that will walk you through step-by-step how to get through the same environment setup that I'm using today. Today is not intended to be an in-depth guide into the development of OnDemand, but a quick review. We will be presenting a more complete version of this tutorial at PERC. Another great place to find in-depth information on setting up and working with Open On Demand is our documentation, which I've linked in the chat. So the dashboard landing page is the first page that a user sees when they first sign in. And you can see on this page there are 4 different panels that we're interested in. The first one is a custom panel that an administrator has created and placed in this portion of the page. The second one is this recently used apps panel, where it just shows the apps that you've recently run. This message of the day panel is one that's provided by Open On Demand by default, and it can be edited in different formats. Here it's edited in Markdown. This last panel is for XDMod. I do not have this set up in the environment, hence the errors. OnDemand integrates with XDMod to show pertinent information about the jobs you've recently run. There's a complete guide to setting up XDMod included in the HPC toolset tutorial. So the next feature of OnDemand we're going to be looking at is files. The dashboard, excuse me, One of the most vital parts of Open OnDemand is our file browser. It allows us to browse through the directories of the system running Open OnDemand and find out output for various jobs and logging, etc. So if we go to this home directory is provided by default with every on-demand installation. This OOD config directory is what we call a favorites path, which can be customized and added by an administrator. So in this file browser view, you see all of the directories and files that are available on within this directory. There are several actions you can take up here. We can create a directory with this action, go into the directory, use this button to create a new file. If we click and select the file in the text box or in the table, we can download it and delete it. We are also able to open the current directory we're looking at in the terminal. So if you need to search through all of the files in a directory for a certain text or just need any other command line utility. So what you can also do here, and this is kind of what I think is pretty cool, is you can edit this file. And when you open the screen, or when you click that button, it opens in a new tab. And this is an editor where you can change the key bindings, you can change what language highlighter you want. We can save the file with this button up here.
Hazel, can I interject for just a second?
Absolutely.
You don't need to go back, but I think it would be helpful if you could maybe zoom in on the browser, because the text when you were just typing there was a little small. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, now, since you couldn't see what I wrote in the file before, we can see it now, hopefully.
Yep, that's great.
Excellent. So that, if you missed that, that was just clicking on the view button in this action, which opens up a non-editable version of your file. So the next feature we're going to be looking at is the job composer and the active jobs list. The job composer lets users create and schedule batch jobs from templates. So this will open in a new tab. When we first get here, we see what we call a joyride, which is going to take us through all of the available options on this page and tell you what they're for and how to use them most effectively. Look at job options, open the terminal, submit, stop, delete, and create a template. And that's relevant because what we're going to do from here is create a job from a template. These templates can be provided by administrators, and there can be as many of them as suits the need. And there's only one template here. So if we create the job, we see that it's been placed in this project directory, which we can find again in the file browser if we ever need to, although that's not entirely necessary because you can also edit this script from here. So if we highlight this job, we can submit it. This status will show the badge, or this badge will show the status of the job. This has run every single other time I have done it, but it's being stubborn right now and stuck in the queue. There we go. I feel like usually it switches to running before. Anyway, so
I forgot to mention, hey, to everybody, live demo, so danger. Yeah.
So like I said, we can open the script sh file from here, modify it. What I'm doing is adding a long sleep time so that we can take a look at the active jobs page. So if we go back to our dashboard view and go under the jobs into active jobs, and if we actually run this script again, you can see that all of the jobs on the system on all clusters show up here. You can filter them by cluster and you can filter them by who ran them. So the next portion of this tutorial is interactive apps. These are one of the main features of Open OnDemand. They provide users with a click-through interface to some of the most popular applications on HPC. Whether you're working with software to create simulations to predict the weather or in need of a fully featured IDE, this is where the ease of access of Open OnDemand really shines. So next we're going to go over launching this HPC desktop application. So we click on that and we're brought to this form where administrators can specify which fields will be available. For example, the number of hours tells you how long the job will be running on the cluster for. So we don't need to specify the account, so we can launch this desktop. And that redirects us to the My Interactive Sessions page, where we can see a card that has the information for the job. It shows us when it starts running. We can click on it and it opens our desktop in another tab. So this desktop is running in a container on one of the compute nodes in the Slurm cluster. So that's what we've got. We can play around on this, run programs, do whatever we need to do. So the next application we're going to look at is Jupyter. So we go into this, it brings us into yet another form, and we can launch Jupyter. You'll notice that this card has a little bit more information when apps are developed. You can include any extra metadata you want in these cards. But before we connect to Jupyter, we're going to look at this underscore CPN02 next to the host that opens a terminal into the host itself. Usually it'll be CPN01, but CPN02 right now. This allows users to not only run an interactive application they can connect to, but also shell access to the job as well, which can be useful for investigating processes running on the host, for example. So we connect to Jupyter now, and it opens up compute node on the Slurm cluster, and we have the session, and we can navigate to this demo. This demo works about 70% of the time I run it. And I think that's more about my machine. That's about my machine, not the terminal. Oh, there we go. See, we have a little graph that we can interact with. So if we close out of that, and that is interactive apps. The last feature we're going to look at is the newest feature. This was added in 3.0. It's support for profiles. These are a way to change the look and feel of an Open OnDemand installation. So if we go down to this chemistry profile here, you'll notice the navigation bar has changed. We've removed access to the desktop application. We have fewer links along the entire navigation bar. And if you click on these chemistry nodes, you'll see that we're brought to this custom page that an administrator can set up and put any number of panels, widgets, etc. This is useful for providing documentation, for example, or just extending the functionality of Open OnDemand in other ways. So this ends our demonstration of the main features of Open OnDemand. In this next feature, I will show you the basics of customizing a dashboard. The point is not to explain every detail of how it works, but simply to show what is possible. If you don't catch all the details, don't worry about it. For now, again, this complete tutorial is available and you can follow the steps if you have further desire to do so. So the first step is to clone the repo. So we want to jump into our shell app. And what I'm doing right now is changing which cluster I'm on. That's some development detail. It's not important for the sake of this. So the first step is to clone the repo. This will be the development version of OnDemand that we can edit and see changes on in real time. After cloning the repo from GitHub, we establish a symlink with a directory called ondemand/dev. This is just some magic that helps us build out the URL necessary to access our dev environment. It's more than that, but that's the basics of it. So after cloning, symlinking, and navigating to our dashboard, we can run some basic Rails development commands to bundle our dependencies and JavaScript libraries. I do have these extra few steps just because I'm on an M1 Mac. And this takes a few seconds, but once this is finished, we'll be able to view our dashboard in development mode, which means it's your own version of the dashboard. You can modify it as you see fit without having to escalate privileges or disrupt other users. So I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. If we go to Sandbox Apps and launch, this is the dashboard we just cloned and symlinked to. This is our own version we can play around with. And to prove that, the first thing we can do is the first thing I learned how to do on this application. So we create an .env.local file. This is where we can store environment variables that help configure OnDemand. And I'm navigating to the files we just pulled down and using our file editor to include ood_brand_bg_color. And then if we go back to our development dashboard and restart the web server, change the color of our dashboard navigation bar. So the next thing we're going to do to show off some configuration options is figure out how to show pinned apps on the home page. So to do this, we're going to need to reconfigure a default configuration object, which points to a configuration file that is that requires elevated access to edit. And so instead of doing that, we're going to Fortunately, this cluster terminal doesn't always like to stay open. We're putting a config folder with a configuration YAML file within a part of the app that we can easily edit. So we find that here. And when you have this configuration file, you can add pinned apps. So what this means, sys dash star is all applications that are on the system dashboard. So we can go and restart our web server again. We need to override an environment variable. So this is our configuration directory, the file we just created. And this adds all of the system apps. What we can do further from here is group these by category. And a category for an application is a piece of metadata that admins or app developers can create. And that separates our apps into different categories. Another thing we can do is change the dashboard layout. And this is in the configuration ondemand.yaml file. What's this? So this splits our page up into columns and rows based on the widgets we have. We restart the web server again. And we'll see we have effectively moved the pinned apps over, but because we haven't put the message of the day environment variables here, this is the pre-provided panel that we have that I've pointed out before. And we can change the layout of this page. So the last thing we're going to do is add a custom widget to the dashboard. So we need to configure where widgets are picked up from, again, because we don't want to have to escalate privileges to access these files. So we're going to .env.local where the environment variables are. Back into our shell app. we're creating this config views widgets. The underscore here is a Rails convention. That means it's picking up a partial for a view. That underscore is not a typo. It's important. From there, we'll go to our views. Edit the file with some HTML. Change the layout to include our widget. Restart the server. And you have a custom panel. So that is my part of the tutorial.
Well, it was great. And Hazel kind of undersold this a little bit, but I want to make sure that everybody caught the fact that everything that Hazel was just doing, they did within OnDemand, using OnDemand to customize a new OnDemand instance. So it's pretty impressive that and that's exactly the kind of stuff that you can do on a production deployment if you want to do some customization there. Okay, I think Emily has a few things that she wants to talk about now. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Again, so great to see you all here. Thanks so much for attending. I wanted to just briefly talk about who I am and introduce another member of our team that recently joined, and then talk about and reiterate the group, how you can reach us, how you can learn more about what we're doing, and then how you can get involved. So again, I'm one of the newest members of the team, along with Matt Walton, who is also on the call. Matt is our new QA security engineer and has been really working closely with our team of developers and has some really great ideas to come. So say hi to Matt. Myself, my name is Emily Moffat-Sadeghi. My role here with Open OnDemand is Developer Relations Program Manager. And like Julie Ma, who's on the call and introduced us, and who you may have met at SC last year, just regularly in our community, my role is focused on supporting the great community that we have using OnDemand, but also supporting and guiding our internal development team. So enough with introductions, how you can reach us. So like Alan briefly mentioned at the beginning of the call, the two main ways is through Discourse and GitHub. So if I can briefly share my screen, I think that'll be best as we navigate through this. So can you all see my screen? Great. So I have Discourse pulled up. I can also drop this link in the chat. But if you have any questions about OnDemand, or if you're running into problems on your own, please do not hesitate to post something, ask a question, or drop that you need some assistance. Our developers and other frequent community members are monitoring this throughout the day to jump in and provide assistance as we can. As you can see, the latest posts, just a few hours ago. Secondly is our GitHub, which again, I can drop this link in the chat. But we love to hear about your ideas for feature requests and appreciate when we're alerted to bugs or errors that are occurring. So we are actually in the process of moving our feature requests and bug requests from Discourse into our GitHub, our main GitHub repo. So please, if you have anything to let us know about these two, go to our GitHub and please submit an issue. And really submitting an issue is clicking on our issue section, navigating over to new issue, and filling out the information from there and submitting this. We had a community member less than a day ago submit an issue about a bug. Again, they included a bunch of helpful information for us and we were quick to respond. So that's one way of how you can reach us. The second way, or a second thing I wanted to talk about is how you can learn about what we're doing. So again, we have an announcement section in our discourse that we talk about releases, our tips and tricks calls, office hours, and other important announcements for our community. On top of that, GitHub is also where you can learn about what we're doing. This is a very live view of what we're actively working on or what is to come. But in particular, we have this section called Milestones, where if you can all still see my screen, you can view some of the different ways we've bucketed or categorized these open issues. And again, these are where we've, in 4.0, which is our next major release to come, we've bucketed what we would love to contribute and include in our next major release. So you can find out more of a view of what we're working on and what's to come there. And then finally, I want to talk about, so we have enough time for questions, is how you can get involved. So besides, again, the tips and tricks and office hours, we would love for you to contribute and develop with us. This is what makes Open OnDemand being so great, is it's open source, and that allows our community to be a part of the development. And so what we've done is we have created a label in our GitHub repo. So this is our main one, on demand, and it's called Good First Issue. And how you can find it is if you click on the issue section, and then in this top bar, you can just type in good. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you a better way to look at this. If you go to our labels right here and type in good, you can see that we have 38 of these that we would love the community to jump in and develop. These are easier, simpler items to develop that have either been submitted by our development team or our community, you all. So just a really high level of how to contribute. Again, you can navigate to these good first issues like I have here. You can click on one of them, assign it to yourself right here. I'm not logged in, so I don't have the ability to assign it to myself. And then you can do something, you can select it, create your own code branch, work on it, and then when you're finished, submit a pull request back to our team to review it and pull it into the main code branch. So that's a very high level. I'm not a developer, so that's just some high level there. But if you are interested in contributing, we highly welcome that. But if you have any more specific questions or want to talk about contributing, please feel free to reach out to me or Julie or Alan. So I'll drop those links in the chat of what I walked through and then my contact information as well. So that's all I have.
Okay. Well, thank you, Emily. Julie, was there anything anybody put in Menti that we need to be discussing, or?
Sorry, I'm muted. No, we didn't get any questions in Menti so far, but
Okay.
if anybody has any questions now, please either raise your hand or put it in the chat. We would love to hear your feedback on how, what you think.
I should just real quick, since we introduced most of the team, we didn't quite introduce all the team that's on here. You know, also on here, Travis Ravert, hopefully many of you know, developer, and then Jeff Ohrstrom. And then I guess technically Chase Eister is on here as well, who is more OSC than Open OnDemand. But
Alan, I need to correct myself, actually.
what's that?
We actually do have two questions.
Oh, okay.
Menti. The first one, I will share screen to make it easier. So can you all see it?
Yes.
How do you collect information about which orgs use Open OnDemand? That is a fantastic question. I will let Alan start because he's been doing it for longer, and then I'll augment with a few
Sure.
things we're doing
Sure.
now.
So first off, there's a lot of different approaches, but that map that I showed, the global map with all the dots in it, there are a variety of ways that you can install Open OnDemand, but one of the ways you can do it is through basically prepackaged, you know, so it's, you know, apt-get, you know, Open OnDemand type stuff. And those actually point to package repository servers. There's probably a better name for it that I'm probably messing up here, but that we host here at OSC. And as a result of hosting at OSC, we collect logs of the IP addresses that connect to the repo and download the packages. So every 6 months, we go and we analyze those logs for the trailing 12 months to get the IP addresses of whoever downloaded the Open On-Demand packages, and then using some fantastic tools that are built into Splunk. And actually, Matt just recently developed a way to do it without doing it in Splunk, which is fantastic. We can then do geolocated lookups and find the cities those are from and plot little points on there. Now, the reason I say it's an undercount is that's not the only way to install on demand. You can install on demand from source using an Ansible role. We know people to do that as well. There's also, for example, NVIDIA hosts Open On Demand in their own package repo. So a variety of ways to do that. All the logos, those are pretty much just people informing us or us discovering. That's how we figure out the logos of those. So hopefully that answered that question. Oh, wait, I should say one more thing. However, we are developing new ways to do this. And so one of the things that we have is a survey, the community survey that I will type in openondemand.org/survey, that if you go there, you can actually self-identify and provide us some great information. And we're looking at maybe translating some of that into automated scripts that you could install in the future with on-demand. So, okay, I'll jump to this very next one. What kind of containers are used, Aptane or Singularity? It's hard to answer that question without knowing a little more context. So I'll try to real quick answer the entire scope of the possible contexts. So at OSC, we run on demand in our production environments. We run them in VMs. So our actual production on demand at OSC, you're actually hitting a virtual machine. You don't have to do that, but that's what we do. But certain apps that we make available within on demand are run within containers on a Kubernetes scheduler, special Kubernetes partition that we have on our system. So we spin that up. Now, there are other entities out there. There was a tips and tricks call back in January from, for example, CSC Finland, where they walked through literally the entire thing running within container and fully containerized on their systems. There's a lot of different approaches, and there are plenty of entities out there. If you're trying to run on like a stateless type system, you can absolutely do that, but there's just a lot of different things there. And it looks like Jeff maybe answered the question in chat, but I'll just read it off. Are there any feature difference between running Slurm versus PBS or config agnostic? And Jeff said, no, there's really no difference between those from the on-demand side. Just their own features.
Okay, so I think there were no other questions at the moment. So thank you so much for this great webinar and the presentations and the different angles from technology to how to contact you and get information. Thank you everyone for joining. So in 1 month, on May 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern and 12 p.m. Pacific, we will have Jen App and Emery Brooks to present. And I've just jumped in like this. So if people still have a question or still would like to discuss further, we are not breaking it fully up at the full hour, but most of the times a lot of people have to jump to the next meeting. So therefore I jumped in for the moment. Yeah, thanks again to Open On Demand and the whole team for the presentation. This was great. And I hope to see everyone then in a month again.